Hi everyone, this is Hongru. Today I'm gonna share my research proposal with you guys. My research proposal was about CLIO assessment, revealing cognitive and linguistic demands in secondary textbooks of an international school in mainland China. My presentation today will consist of 5 aspects: introduction, literature review, methodology, data collection and analyze, and the final limitations. I'll first start with the introduction. So as we all know, CLIO approach has become the new and hot trend in the educational field worldwide. And lots of international schools or bilingual schools in China are using it to cope with the globalization, as there are more and more students trying to learn English. However, the differences between CLIO and other bilingual approach, like language across curriculum, LAC, is that CLIO pays more attention on the balance of content knowledge and language knowledge. And that is to say, correspondingly, there should have both cognitive and linguistic demands in the CLIO assessment. However, yet there is not enough research has been done on evaluating CLIO assessments. So inspired by this, in my research, I will try to review the existing CLIO assessments in secondary science and biology textbooks, and they were used in an international school in mainland China. So I'll use a framework that was proposed by Law and Feng in 2018 to analyze all the questions in the textbooks to check their cognitive and linguistic demands. The framework will be shown later. In the literature review part, the first thing I did, of course, is to give a definition of CLIO. So Stoller has said this: CLIO is an umbrella term defined as instructional approaches that make a dual commitment to language and content learning objectives. Thus, in this way, the objectives of CLIO should equip students with knowledge of both content and language. So, theoretically speaking, the assessment should suggest both cognitive and linguistic demands. Okay. For methodology part, in the overall research design, my research context is in an southern international secondary school in mainland China. Students in this school are mostly preparing for studying abroad. So they are using the Cambridge IGCSE textbooks, which is a standardized examination that raised by the Cambridge University examination. It's just like it's when you are applying for universities overseas, these universities might use this as a record to recognize your previous studying attainment. So it's pretty much a really important examination for students. I chose the science book and a biology book to analyze because there will be more words in the questions than using in math books, since there are mostly numbers in math questions. Besides textbook analyze, I will also try to do some interviews. In that school, I will try to get in touch with the in-service teacher in that school and try to figure out their perspectives on the current assessments. For example, like how do they think of the assessments in the textbooks? Is it going along with the curriculum and the overall teaching plan? Is it effective, or is it promoting students to learn? And if possible, there will be questionnaires for those students to see students' perspective towards the textbook and assessment, like how they feel they are coping with this assessment, and is the assessment promoting their learning, helping them to learn, to conquer new knowledge. But unfortunately, I have not. I don't have any resource to get in touch with students yet, but I'll try. So this is a textbook that I'm gonna use in this research. So this is a Cambridge biology textbooks and also science textbooks. In the data analyze part, here's the framework that I mentioned earlier. It was developed by Low and Fong in 2018. In this matrix, it was divided into linguistic and cognitive demands. Those demands were broke down into different levels. For cognitive demand, there is recall, application, and analyze, 3 different levels. And obviously, the recall is the easiest one, which doesn't require much of students. And the analyze is the most difficult one, since it will ask students to do some higher order thinking. For linguistic demands, the linguistic demands was separated into 2 aspects. One is the receptive, and the other one is productive. The receptive means reading the questions. So there will be like many types of questions. Some questions only contains several words, so that will be a vocabulary level, and some questions are just have a few sentences, so that will be a sentence level. Well, there are more difficult questions which they like reading comprehensive. They will have a text for students to understand, so that will be the text level. And also overall, the receptive means reading the question, and the productive means to write an answer. So this is because every question contains receptive linguistic information to decode, and the level of which could be different from the productive language requirement. So the receptive and the productive would be different. For example, the question maybe only contains a few words, but it requires students to write an essay about it. So that will fall in this part. I'll give you an example. In this question, although both arteries and veins are blood vessels, they are very different in their structure. Discuss how their structural differences are related to the different ways of maintaining blood flow inside the blood vessels. So, in this question, students are facing 2 linguistic challenges. The first of all, students need to read and understand the question, which contains 2 sentences. So it's a receptive demand in the sentence level. And it also requires students to write an essay type as an answer. So in the productive demand level, it's a text demand. At the same time, the question also imposes analyze cognitive demand, because students will need to compare and contrast outrows and wins. So this requires students higher thinking skills to analyze two different concepts in this subject. And so for this example, for this question, it will fall into the product, this grade. Well, additionally, there is one additional level. This is no productive demand. This level is typically represented by the multiple choice questions, like or simple calculations. Since students only need to write down some letters like A, B, C, D, they can just choose and just write numbers when they do calculations. All right, for limitations, in this research, the sample size will be an issue since there is only a limited number of assessment questions and just a few people involved in this research. So the data sample will be relatively smaller than regular research, and the research result might not be that comprehensive or presentative enough. And it also it's a little bit hard to do the research in such a short limited time. And also the situation, the coronavirus situation, is really hard to get in touch or get into a school. So that will be the limitations. All right. Above all, that's my presentation. That's my presentation of my research proposal. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you can all stay healthy. This is a reference page. All right. Bye-bye.